The economic crisis of the 1930s led to a wave of union organizing and strikes all over the United States. Vicky Starr was one of the many rank-and-file activists active in the campaign to organize unions in the meatpacking factories of Chicago, Illinois. Years later, she spoke to Alice and Stoughton Lind, the labor historians, about the conditions in the plants and the tactics radicals used to organize meatpacking and other workers.
I ran away from home at age 17. I had to because there was not enough money to feed the family in 1933 during the Depression. I was doing housework for $4 a week and I hated it. So Herb suggested that I get a job in the stockyards. One of the ways to get a job was to go down to the employment office. Every morning you got there by 6 or 6:30. There were just so many benches and they would all be filled early. They would only need one, maybe two people. This woman, Mrs. McCann, women's hiring director, would look around for the biggest and brawniest person. "Have you had experience?" she asked. I said, "Well, not in the stockyards, but we used to butcher our own hogs at home." I carried this big steel, and that impressed her. Mrs. McCann hired me. In 1933-34, we worked 6-hour shifts at 37.5 cents an hour. We would have to work at a high rate of speed. It was summer. It would be so hot that women used to pass out. The ladies' room was on the floor below, and I would help carry these women down almost vertical stairs into the washroom. We started talking union. The thing that precipitated it is that on the floor below they used to make hot dogs, and one of the women, in putting the meat into the chopper, got her fingers caught. There were no safety guards. Her fingers got into the hot dogs and they were chopped off. It was just horrible. 3 of us colonizers had a meeting during our break and decided that this was the time to have a stoppage, and we did. All 6 floors went on strike. We just stopped working right inside the building, protesting the speed and unsafe conditions. We got the company to put in safety devices. Soon after the work stoppage, the supervisors were looking for the leaders because people were talking up the action. They found out who was involved, and we were all fired. I was blacklisted. I got a job doing housework again, and it was just horrible. I just couldn't stand it. I would rather go back and work in a factory any day or night. A friend of mine who had been laid off told me that she got called to go back to work. Meanwhile, she had a job in an office and she didn't want to go back to the stockyard, so she asked me if I wanted to go in her place. She had used the name Helen Ellis. I went down to the stockyards and it was the same department, exactly the same job, on the same floor where I had been fired. But it was afternoon and Mrs. McCann wasn't there. Her assistant was there. Her assistant told me that I would start work the following afternoon. I got my hair cut really short and hennaed. I thinned my eyebrows and penciled them, wore a lot of lipstick and painted my nails. I came in looking sharp and not like a country girl, so I passed right through and I was hired as Helen Ellis on the same job, the same floor lady. After several days, the floor lady, Mary, who was also Polish, came around and said, "Okay, Helen, I know you're Stella. I won't say anything, but just keep quiet." She knew I was pro-union, and I guess she was too, so I kept the job as Helen Ellis until I got laid off. Later on, I was blacklisted under the name Ellis. If you even talked union, you were fired. So we actually had secret meetings. Everybody had to vouch for anyone that they brought to the meeting. When I look back now, I really think we had a lot of guts. But I didn't even stop to think about it at the time. It was just something that had to be done. We had a goal. That's what we felt had to be done, and we did it.